Welcome back, everybody, to the Nevin Shapiro Show. I'm Mike Tirado. I'm here with Nevin Shapiro, and today we have our first special guest that was in the whole Nevin era, the 2002 Remington Award winner for the best center in the country, Brett Romberg.
What's happening, man? How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for coming on, Brett. We can't thank you enough.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So before the video starts, guys, please click this subscribe button. We're dropping videos every week. We're now sponsored by BTN Sports, backed by Athlete Narrative. Check them out in the description. Subscribe to them. And as always, let's get into the action. For the viewers that might not know, how did you get into football from the start, being from Canada?
Oh my God! Yeah, let's go ahead and remember this one. In the beginning, though, when you first started talking about the sponsorship, I thought I was going to the BTs thing. I was like, "This is sponsored by BTs. Congratulations! That would have been incredible. Shout out for future sponsorships." But for those that don't know about Bravo Tango in South Florida, there's a few locations. Getting into the whole how I got into football. I never even really wanted to play football, to be perfectly honest with you. I was always a baseball guy.
Interesting.
So ended up growing up being pretty heavily involved in baseball, played for Team Canada. I always thought I was going to be a professional baseball player, the whole scouted thing, and I thought it was going down. I really did. And then I ripped my shoulder apart one summer in a spring game in high school football that my high school football coach basically made me play high school football. I also, label him as responsible for me being who I am today, to be honest with you. So in my Hall of Fame speech, I ended up recognizing him. That's one of the things that I think a lot of the youth today, due to the fact that the parents are almost absentee, to be perfectly honest with you, they're going to need somebody outside the household to help raise kids and justify a lot of the moves that these kids are making nowadays. And the more you have in the village to go ahead and raise the kid, I think the better. So shout out to my high school football coach who really was responsible for creating me, to be honest with you. So ended up playing a little bit of both. Played baseball, football, tore my shoulder up one summer, had the DH for Team Canada, and I realized that there was a little bit more of an opportunity for me in the game of football than there was in baseball. So ended up becoming the #1 high school recruit out of Canada in like 2018 and or 2008, 1998.
I was like, wait,
Jesus, time machine.
I caught
Yeah,
that.
I was like, whoa.
Time machine. Yeah, 98, and came here in January. I had Arthur Francis Kehoe, his little short stubby ass, walking around recruiting kids, I think, out of Michigan, to be honest with you. And then he ended up jumping over the border in my hometown of Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and walking by me with a quick little skip and a hop and saying, Miami, Miami, Miami. And I was like, where's this coming from? I couldn't hear, couldn't see, because obviously, Kehoe is down here. So I couldn't really see who kept saying Miami. And then I found out that, at the end of the whole combine or whatever it was we were doing there at the University of Windsor, it was the University of Miami that was interested in me somewhat. And, the Michigans were there, the Ohio States were there, the Michigan States were there. Never even heard of the University of Miami. So I apologize. I'm sure all the Hurricane fans have heard the story before, but I've never heard of the University of Miami, not once in my life. Jesse Palmer was the quarterback at Florida, trying to get me to come down to Florida. And I wanted to do something that nobody's ever really done. I wanted to take a look on the map and find out how damn far South Florida really was. And I noticed that it was further down than Gainesville, so I said, I'm going to go there. And that's how I ended up coming here. In the 5-6 season that they just ended up accomplishing, it was, everybody was burning stakes and pitchforking all around the University of Miami trying to hang Butch Davis. And I picked that year to come in the January, and it was the start of the most epic football program ever assembled.
I would have suspected you to play hockey or lacrosse.
Hockey got expensive, brother. I'm telling you, like travel baseball in the summer and hockey. And plus I was growing like a weed. So my parents are like, look, man, you're going to have to go to like repo department and go ahead and get that Walmart layaway pair of skates that is not going to fit you anyway in the next couple of years. So
did you hear any dominance or anything about like the past of Miami when you came in, or like did you know anything?
Well, that's the nutty part about it. Windsor's right across from Detroit.
Right.
So obviously, the Blades crew and who was the other wide receiver that came from the University of Miami back in the day that was playing for the Lions?
Brett Perriman.
Mm-hmm. Those two guys were like, predominant players for Detroit Lions. Yeah. Never heard of them. Watching Jim Kelly, seeing Bernie Kosar, the Warren Sapps of the world, like hearing and seeing these guys' names on Sunday, had 0.0 clue. Because in Canada, collegiate football is not the first thing on the menu. It's like, you're a hockey player. You go to a farm team when you're 16 years old and you scrap and you play hockey. That's your pedigree. It's almost a similar path in life as like growing up and going to work at Fords and Chryslers and GM because your parents did. And you're 18 years old, leaving high school, not going to college, first of all. Like a lot of the kids and I grew up with, never even went to university or college. So it's one of those things, you become 18, you go get a job, you earn your money, you buy a truck, and you go about your life, and the next 40 years is carpe diem, seize the moment.
You drink Labatt's.
And you drink mostly Canadian Labatt Blue, depending on which goddamn beer you want to drink. But yeah.
With the high content.
Absolutely, higher alcohol content. But yeah, that was like the path, and I just wanted to do something that was outside the box. That, you know, I didn't want to do the same thing that all my friends were doing. I didn't want to live the same life that my family grew up living and that I was anticipated on following in their footsteps. So I said, F it, bro. I'm getting the hell out of Dodge, and I'm coming to America.
How's life in South Florida for you, man?
Life in South Florida has been pretty decent.
Doesn't suck, right?
Yeah, ever since about 2000, it's been a pretty good. It's been a pretty
Not
run.
going back to Windsor, huh?
No, not anytime, especially nowadays. Christ, I know what's going on back in Canada. They hate America, and America's kind of giggling and laughing about what's going on in Canada. So,
what would you say is the biggest cultural difference from Windsor to Miami?
Women. Good-looking women, to be perfectly honest with you. And then you could see it, God, like even in playing in the NFL, you know, being up in the Midwest for, you know, 6-7 months out of the year, and then coming back to South Florida and just driving up Red Road and getting into the South Miami area where all the yoga classes are letting out at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Everybody thought I had some secret sauce with recruiting.
No, it's called
That's
money. It's called money. It's called
This
money.
is where we are, man.
I don't give a shit.
I keep trying to tell everyone, man, you want to be in Columbus, Ohio, or here?
No, it's unbelievable. Like, I've never seen an ugly girl get out of a Ferrari. You ever seen an ugly girl get out of a Ferrari?
Oh,
I've seen a couple fat, ugly, older men get out of Ferraris, but I've never seen an ugly girl get out of a Ferrari. So, yeah, aside from my chiropractor bill, but driving up the road, twisting my neck around, trying to find out what was going on, yeah, the women is probably by far. And again, you know what else I could probably testify to is the eagerness, the hungriness, the if that's even a word, but just the want to be successful. I think there's no other competitive climate like South Florida to make something of yourself and to become successful, to be perfectly honest with you. I've been around, I've seen a bunch of different places throughout the U.S. Again, they have that inside the box mentality. Here in Miami, sometimes it's, you know, guilty to a fault. Everybody's looking for an angle to try to become successful. Sometimes you get screwed over, sometimes you don't. But yeah, it's a competitive spot down here. Shit's expensive. Girls are good looking. Life comes at you quick, man.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. That's for sure. This place is not for everybody.
So you get to Miami. Who was your first roommates when you first got here?
They put me with a guy by the name of Nick Nettles. I think they just said white guy. Put him with a white guy. Put him with a white guy.
I remember him.
Yeah.
I remember the name.
The dude was a monster. He was like a powerlifting guy out of Palm Beach or something like that.
Yeah,
so it was him and I in a suite together. That didn't last too long. That was over pretty quickly. And then shortly thereafter, it was Robert Sampson in a summer session in an on-campus apartment with no vehicle. And I don't know if anybody's ever witnessed or partaken in an empty University of Miami campus in the summertime when it's 149 degrees of hot soup and sweat with no vehicle, and all you got to do is just walk around and be lonely. Brother, you're dealing with demons at that point in time. You're getting the shit kicked out of you.
And that's not even including the sandpit.
Yeah, that doesn't include the physical labor. Yeah, that's impressive. But yeah, no girls on campus either. You know, I spent my first 2 or 3 months at the school pool. Coming from Canada in January.
Imagine where I was for 10 years.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah.
there was no pool.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. No pool over there. So yeah, it was a hard, to be perfectly honest with you and transparent. Like, it got to the point where I almost wanted to leave. Like, I was getting ready to like bounce, and if it wasn't for Rich Mercier coming to pick me up and bring me to his house in that summer,
another Canadian,
a fellow Canadian trying to look out for me. I don't know if I would have ended up staying, to be honest with you. Like, when you want to talk about hard times, brother, like hard times, try getting your toothbrush and putting it in your mouth with some toothpaste on it and finding out the 3 guys that you live with like scrubbed their balls with it the night before. Like, that's the kind of shit that goes on. That's the kind of shit that goes on. Heaven forbid your mother made you a nice meal that you tried to save in the fridge or put it in the freezer. No, you ate it. Guys getting their Gatorade peed in, like,
and you keep asking me what prison was like. Dude, that's it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There's only so many degrees of separation between the pen in the University of Miami. You know, it's borderline. It's borderline.
Shit.
Fuck.
Yeah.
What a segue,
Oh
man.
my God. I don't even know how we could keep going after that one. That's fucked up. Oh my God. So, fuck.
Oh.
So who would you say you were the closest to? Like, who did you become closest with at Miami?
Well, Rich left shortly thereafter. Clearly, he was a few years older than me. But it became me, Joaquin, Bibla became a roommate of mine, Martin Bibla, basically the offensive line. We were pretty tight. And then as the years went on, obviously Dorsey and I were roommates for a couple of years. So Kenny, he was a video game hound. Like, he just liked to sit in his room and play video games. So he wasn't really pounding the pavement like I was in Coconut Grove back in the day, judging the White Trash Bash, Jello wrestling contests and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely education. That's for sure. It was an education.
And did you have one particular coach at Miami? I mean, I would suspect it's Art Kehoe, but did you have a coach that you were most closest with and connected
Yeah, definitely
with?
Art. Yeah, Art was the guy. Mario was there as the GA at that point in time. And when it came to, like, you know, fighting and scrapping and learning about the lineage of offensive linemen, Mario was our go-to guy, to be honest with you, because I kind of idolized and tried to emulate Casey Jones, who was, I still think to this day, Casey Jones was the best center to play at Miami. Like, the dude was a monster, 255, 60 pounds.
He was tough, man.
Ripping Ray Lewis's face mask off, carrying a dead frog around his neck, making the dude say hi to it as they walked out of the locker room. Prior to the game in the OB in the Orange Bowl, you know, the brothers got the hip hop going on in the corner.
Yeah.
Casey would stand up, lone white soldier, go over there, pull it out of the damn tape deck, and play like Danzig and like symphonic music, like crazy stuff that nobody. And you know,
He was
Casey's
tough, man.
Casey's a little nutty, so you know, he used to rip out the pages of the Florida State D linemen and eat them on the toilet before games, like legit, like you know, clinically, like legit. Yeah,
Wow,
like
man.
And aside from that, he was a hell of a player. So,
Right.
so I was like trying to emulate that historic level of football at the University of Miami, and not just on the field but off the field. I wanted to carry those same torches and traditions that those guys worked so hard to try to keep going throughout the years. You know, the 80s teams, the 90s teams, the 2001 team, we all basically had the recipe. Like, you know, I never forget, Jeremy Shockey stood up in one meeting, he went ballistic. He was yelling, and I'm talking about post football. And we were meeting with the athletic director, I think it was Blake James at the time. And Jeremy stood up, this moron, he was the only one in a suit, first of all. We were like showing up in like workout clothes, and Jeremy shows up in a suit, and he's like, I'm tired of hearing all this damn shit. You got the goddamn recipe? Fuck! And they like walked out. And everybody was like, oh, that dude hasn't said anything in 4 years. You know, that's his opener. So yeah, we really do try to emulate and really pass that baton. And, you know, after, you know, the horrible 15, 20 years of what was going on over there, the walls went up, and there was a lot of, they're invited and they're allowed to be back, but we really weren't. We were still kind of considered the outcasts, to be perfectly honest with you. The former players, that is.
Right. And who would you say was the hardest guy in your whole tenuredship at UM? Who was the hardest guy to block?
God. William Joseph has long enough arms that he could pick a scab off of his ankle standing vertical. Like, Willie Joe was tough. They call him Big Daddy Black for all of you. I'm not trying to be racist, but yeah, Big Daddy Black, shout out. William Joseph was because of his arm length. Not to kick a man while he's down, but I don't think Willie Joe is curing cancer anytime soon either. Like, he's not the smartest cookie, like, at all. So he's one of those guys you just point and tell him what to do, and he just don't know better. He's like a can't get right, if all of you like life. Kind of can't get rightish. But
he's gonna love to hear this.
Yeah, but a dude was a monster, tough, smelled like shit, like just awful. He was tough. And then obviously Vince came along. I'm sorry about that.
No,
we're looking for a perfume sponsor, by the way, too.
I'm so offended.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then Vince Wilfork came along, and those battles were pretty awesome too. But you know, we talk about this all the time. I would see guys on Sundays, and I would see coming into Tuesday meetings and Wednesday meetings in the NFL, and you would list these game records, right? You'd have the list of game records on offense and on defense, and the offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators would pick out 3 or 4 guys that are willing and able to basically change the outcome of a game with 4 or 5 different plays. So, you know, the guys that might fall asleep, talk about defensive ends, defensive tackles. Obviously, Vince Wilfork's name would come up all the time. You think the guy's out of shape. He'll lull you to sleep. And then all of a sudden, he's going to throw you 15 feet in the air, and he's going to sack the quarterback on a 3rd and short. Like, just stuff like that. And every weekend was a University of Miami guy. Every single frickin' time we'd play against another team, it was somebody that I would have played against or been a teammate with at the U. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. That guy, every day I would go in against that guy. Never saw them as elite football players. We were just all guys just trying to get it. To be perfectly honest with you, it was just all competitive all the time. Every single thing we did. Yeah, and I never saw them or put them on any kind of pedestal, which was the craziest part about it. And, you're looking at guys that are first-round draft picks and all-pros and possible Hall of Famers, and it's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me. The fact that I was on the field with the same crew. You know what I mean? It's mind-boggling.
I bet it is. So, obviously, we have Mr. Go ahead.
I wanted to. There's one question I'm dying to get into, and I know there's history that Mike wants to share and everything else, but there's this one topic that has come up that has become a national argument of sorts, and I don't think it's really an argument. And it's about this: who's the greatest team ever, right? Who's the greatest college team ever? So I've taken a stand against this 2019 LSU team that, for some reason, because it has the sexy whistles, and Joe Burrow had an incredible, maybe the greatest college season ever for a player ever.
Right.
The stats were insane. 60 touch. It was insane. When you look at that team and you look at that 2001 Miami team you played, just break it down. I don't know how much more I could say than what I've said, and I know I'm carrying the torch. Forget the scandal with me and everything. I just know greatness when I see it, and I know, listening to your story about how you guys had the recipe and what it was before you got there, and then to uphold it and really go through it.
Yeah. I always thought the argument was, which 80s, 90s, or 2000 team was the top team ever assembled in college football history.
Right.
LSU, I don't know. Are they still doing documentaries 20, 25 years later on an LSU program? I thought LSU faded like a fart in the wind, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, were they good? Yeah, but how many guys did they have? 3, 4 guys that were the polarizing players?
And that's the thing. And
we had 3 or 4 guys at each position, backups.
Yeah.
That are changing the game.
Yeah.
Not to hate on LSU. And, Coach O, I still have that in my head, go eat on a cigar, boy. When Joe Burrow stood up, I'm walking out on a cigar. There's a reason why Coach O lives down here, come on. Let's be honest. The blood is orange and green. It always has been. It always will be. It's the most polarizing program in the country. It's always sexy, regardless of who the hell we're playing. It's always the top of the list on somebody else's next season schedule. Knocking off the U, being able to throw up the U and then turn it over upside down and put it down by their crotch. They're not doing that about LSU. They don't do that shit about LSU at all. And yes, okay, Joe Burrow's a great quarterback. They had a great wide receiver that was over there, if I remember correctly, as well.
Yeah, they had 2 receivers that
couple running backs that might have been pretty decent, but you're not getting game changers. The University of Miami had game-changing players at a lot of positions, not just at the typical quarterback position. A wide receiver that can go up and jump through the ceiling and catch a ball and maybe get a touchdown at the end of a game. Yeah, they had that. Did they have a tight end or a few tight ends that can go underneath, that could run people over, that can get 140 a game? No. Did they have running backs at will, 3 or 4 of them, that can get 100 yards a pop per game? No, they didn't. Did they have nasty offensive linemen? Although probably not physically the most beautiful thing on paper, did they just rip defenses apart? Nope, they didn't do that either. Defensive linemen, guys that were just insane, their own highlight reel. No, I don't think they had that. They had great defensive tackles, I remember. Always had really good defensive tackles, LSU. But they're not getting guys that are changing the game, that are doing dun-dun-dun every single Saturday or Sunday on ESPN. No, that didn't exist. And to be perfectly honest with you, it was alarming to me to see how incredible that roster was, even still to this day. You got guys that weren't even affiliated with the University of Miami talking about it on ESPN.
Yeah.
The football world knows exactly who is the greatest team ever assembled by college athletics.
That's
ever.
right.
The football world does know. They understand it. And I don't think there'll ever be, unfortunately, even for the fans, I don't think there'll ever be anything comparable to that.
No.
Ever.
I agree with you 100%.
Ever. Especially the landscape of college football and the way it is now. There's no loyalty. There's no, I wouldn't call it honor, but the reason for playing every Saturday has changed. The reason for playing and going to a university on Saturdays now is money. Back then, it wasn't money. Back then, it was just straight pride, your name that you had on the back of your jersey, trying to rep a hood that you're from, a country that you're from, a family that you love dearly. Now it's like, I know, I'll go to that school this year, go to this school next year, maybe get a little bit money out of that place. Oh, I'm not good enough to go to the NFL yet. Maybe I'll hang around another couple years and just score money that way. There's different reasons behind kids playing football nowadays.
Right.
Let me expand upon this question just a little bit deeper. So, knowing the mentality that you guys had, losing to Washington, Dorsey's first road start.
That was tough.
Wait, and the feeling you guys had, and I remember
Sick.
how much fucking venom and anger did you feel? Because I know what I felt as a fan in that stadium, on that field, rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Take that energy and think about how the country may doubt you guys against a 2019 LSU team, and now you guys go play. What's coming?
Aside from, Al Blades screaming in the tunnel, aside from Dan Morgan, our linebackers, because for the most part, it was a lot of blown assignment, I think, on Tuasa Sopo, right? If I'm not mistaken, that was the quarterback's name.
If we had an extra minute,
oh my
that
God!
game,
Well, yeah, that's
we
it.
win. It's over.
Totally. And it's the story.
humming.
It's the story of everything.
Right,
we
right,
just
right.
had a little more time on the clock.
Right.
But legitimately, if we just had a little more time to put together another drive,
It was over.
that was like our baptism. Like
Right.
me, Dorsey, like we all got baptized that game. Mm-hmm. Baptized by fire, granted, but that game I think is the one ball dropping. If you want to go ahead and put a nice name on it, our balls dropped in Washington. Mm-hmm. Loudest stadium I've ever played in, both in the NFL and in college athletics.
Weird elements.
Insane, like soupy wet,
Weird
drizzly,
elements. Yeah.
awkward days. If the sun was shining, it was still gray.
Different, country.
Oh
yeah.
my God,
Yeah.
totally. And again, you're dealing with that 6.5 hour plane ride coming home after getting the shit beat out of you, physically, mentally drained, knowing that you could have won that game if you would have done a couple things differently. It literally was my first game that I lost, and then my last game was the Fiesta Bowl, and it a very similar disgusted feeling that sticks with you for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really was.
So to wrap up this whole LSU debate, what would be the score? What do you think the score would be if you played them?
I'd give them in the teens. I'd probably go about 38-13. To be generous, you know what I mean? I think it would be a 38-13 because here's another thing: our game time adjustments were not only made by coaches, but they were made by freaking players. Like
I keep trying to tell these fans, they think Joe Burrow would have been sitting back there for their time of possession would have been 15 to 20 minutes for the game. We would have just run the ball and choked them out, bleeding them.
When we played Nebraska, right, in the national championship, and this was like the whole misleading thing about the University of Miami was they said that they way underestimated our speed. Like D-line, linebackers, defensive backs, safeties, you name it. They couldn't believe it that like their running back at that time, Dietrich, was a Canadian kid as well. Their quarterback, I can't remember what the hell his name was. Crouch, that was his name. The little
Eric Crouch and Darren Dietrich was Dietrich was the running back.
Like they thought that they were quick. Like this is the mouth of Richie Incognito, who was obviously my guard, Crazy Richie. He said, Brett, when we saw you guys get off the bus at Disney, because that's the first time we saw the University of Nebraska. Yeah. And again, growing up as a kid up north in Canada, Midwest, you're thinking of Nebraska, the Tom Osbornes, the big monsters, the Peter brothers. That's the era and the aura that I'm looking at. Same with the University of Michigan back then at that time. And they said that when we got off the bus, they thought it was a high school team that was getting off the bus. They said that we were so tiny, small, they thought that they were going to mop us. And then when they saw Vince Wilfork grab Tinu Funodi and drive him 4 yards, slam him on his back, and make a tackle for loss, they knew the shit was over. Like they said, whoa, wait a minute. The guy that just had across the country 385 pancakes that he just registered on ESPN, the guy that is like, this guy just got fucking bamboozled. Bad. by Vince Wilfork, bad.
Yeah.
And they knew that from that moment on, it was over. Like, everything got deflated. It was, if I want to compare it to something, it was Willis McGahee getting his knee blown out in the Fiesta. Just the deflate, there it goes. So the underestimating of our speed, the way that we can close in on things. Our defense, Jerome McDougal was like 245 pounds, giant nipples, running around the giant biceps. The reason why I say nipples is because Dookie's got nipples on him. So for those of you that haven't seen Jerome McDougal without a shirt on, dude's got nipples. He's got like gynecomastia before gynecomastia was
I'm
thin,
having PTSD.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Shout out to Dookie, by the way. Congratulations on the UM Hall of Fame. But yeah, like Corn, Jerome, Willie Joe, Andrew Williams. Talk about prison.
Jamal Green.
Andrew Williams looked like he was in the pen for about 14 years, just straight upper body. Straight upper body workouts. Never did a leg press in his life. But yeah, he was straight upper body.
We had an 8-9-man rotation in line, man.
Nasty.
Like, that's what I'm telling these LSU fans. What the fuck are you guys talking about, man? What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
It's not even, to be honest with you, it probably wouldn't even be up for discussion with me. And again, to give the football fan a landscape, you would sit in an NFL locker room, right? Everybody would be talking about their college. Everybody would be talking about the university, where they came from, talking about the team that they had, the players that they had. They would always stop talking when I would open my mouth. I don't know if they just wanted to hear what the hell I had to say, but there's no comparison. Like, there's none. Like, Greg Jones from Florida State would shut his mouth. And I just bring up one name, Sean Taylor. I'd be like, what did Sean say? So, like, G. Jones knew, like, Florida State couldn't compete with Miami. And Florida State was considered one of the best programs in college football for a long time, alongside of the University of Miami. The universities in Michigan, like, no. Ohio State, I have to, give them their due. They got great players and great program, but you can't hold a candle to the U. You really can't. I don't give a shit. I know they're going to put up a statistic of how many first rounders there were. I don't give a shit about first rounders. I don't care about first rounders. I'm caring about guys that are really willing to die and bleed on the football field for their teammate. That's what we were. Like, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about awards, accolades. It didn't matter to us. It was just the guy that we were playing with, the guy that was in the locker room, the teammate, the 100 guys that were in our locker room that were doing everything to sacrifice for our program, for the U. Not sitting on a couch, not walking on the U in the middle of the locker room, waiting their turn patiently to play, earning their abilities to play. Like, it was just different, just really different, that a lot of other schools, they don't get.
Here's another question I want to throw in. So, how many titles does Butch Davis win if he doesn't go to the NFL?
Well, I know our three.
We got jacked out of 2, right?
Yeah, we got jacked out of 2. Obviously, the 2000 Sugar Bowl game against the Gators, that should have been a national championship.
Right.
The year following, obviously, Nebraska. The next year after that, I think we would have been coached a little bit differently. I think it would have been a much tighter ship, not run by us. Right. I think it would have been ran a little bit differently. So that 2003 program. My guess, you would have probably had a couple more contentions for sure. I would have said 4 or 5 for sure. I think Butch would have done 4 or 5. And again, I've covered Butch. I've interviewed Butch as the years went on. Probably one of the most regretful decisions he's ever made in his life.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
One of the most regretful decisions he ever made in his life to get that. But as a young man and as a young player, you feel betrayed. But as a grown-up and as a human being and a man, you understand the reason why he was doing it. Like, it's life-changing and game-changing ways to set up his family. So
right.
You have a little bitter taste in your mouth. Some of the people at University of Miami still have a bitter taste in their mouth about Butch Davis leaving and the way he exited. Yeah. But that's the reason why we're sitting here probably talking about the University of Miami and those programs and that team is because of Butch Davis.
Definitely.
To be honest with you.
And I know that some of the fans are probably wondering, you're sitting here with Nevin Shapiro, the whole program and everything that kind of went down. And we're going to get into the Ohio State game in a little bit. But I wanted to ask you, when was the first time that you heard about Nevin Shapiro at Miami?
To be perfectly honest with you, I never heard about Nevin at the University of Miami. This is like the most unbelievable dynamic.
Yes.
I knew Nevin from my family, my wife and her parents. Nevin was a businessman. Nevin was in the same business as my in-laws were in the same business of. It got to the point where I told this story to Andy the other day. I was like, we walked into Lucky Strike, and I was going to meet Jeremy. Jeremy was already in the NFL, I think, at this point in time, and I was coming out of the NFL, and we were going to meet at the bowling alley on the beach, and I saw you and your girl there. You were like all in white, like an all white linen suit or something like that, and you had like the bottle service going on. You had the little couch area. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck? What does this guy do? This guy's got money, man. I was like, holy fuck. I was like, this guy's doing bottle service before bottle service was even a thing. And Emily was like, yeah, he does business with my family. And I was just like, really? I was like, so you know him? She's like, yeah, I've known him for a long time. And I was like, oh my God, no way. I've always seen Nevin around, but I don't even maybe saying what's up or anything like that. There was never any relationship.
Did you know he was
Nevin
involved?
didn't like white guys. Nevin wasn't a fan of the white guys. He wouldn't talk to the white guys. So yeah, Nevin was always hanging out with the brothers all the time. So he was the honorary Jewish black dude. He really was.
So did you know he had any involvement at Miami at that time? Really?
I'll put my hand on the damn Bible right now. 0.0 clue.
That is really
wasn't even on the radar. Like, to be honest with you, I wish I would have freaking known. I wish I would have been part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, never. Yeah. They kept it, for the most part, as far as I knew it was a quiet thing. Like, if you were getting anything at the University of Miami, you never really boasted about it. Sure. You never opened your mouth about it.
I just figured the players would share it with you among players. You know what I mean?
Well, because I liked fishing, there was always like, hey man, you want to go fishing? We got this dude that we go hang out, we go fishing. And I was just like, no, I go fishing too. I go fishing with my friends. I'm okay. I'm good, bro. I'm good.
Yeah.
You know? So that was really about the extent of it. It wasn't about like going out or going to clubs or, all the stories that I heard about after I left the University of Miami. Yep. I didn't even know that was existing at that point in time, to be honest with you.
So a lot of the comments that we get, I run a lot of the social media accounts, we get a lot of comments, Nevin was the person who took the program down. Then some people, even former players, are like, it's former coaches or coaching for the last 20 years of why Miami hasn't been back to where it's supposed to be. In your own opinion, why do you believe Miami has been mediocre for the last 20 years?
I don't think it has to do with Nevin Shapiro, to be honest with you. If they want to go ahead and pin somebody up, if they want to create the scapegoat, everybody always has a scapegoat. There's always a finger-pointing situation going on. I feel like the importance of recruiting fell off. I felt like we became very big. We became almost... almost like big banks, bro. Like the mortgage system. The reason why the mortgage system fell down, we felt we were just too great. And if you want to come to the University of Miami, come. If you don't, go somewhere else and lose. And that's kind of the mantra that ended up happening. Coaches started getting fired. There was a lot of finger pointing going on within the coaching system as well. Heads had to roll. They were getting a lot of pressure from up top. And that was just the beginning of the end, and it's unfortunate because all good things come to an end. Like, people have to realize that. You would love for your storied program to remain pinnacle for decades and decades, but you look at all the greats, man. The Alabamas of the world, the Michigans of the world, the Ohio States of the world. I'm not going to mention LSU because why? They eventually come to an end. Kids get competitive and want to go elsewhere. Kids get impatient. We also had a long list of backups that needed to see the field as well. Not the best thing in the world when you think you're the biggest fish in your pond locally and you got to go sit down for a few years at a program, earn your stripes. And that was the recipe and the formula that was going on at the University of Miami. I think literally that was the beginning of the downfall. It was just things got stale. Things got a little stagnant at the University of Miami, unfortunately. Right.
And we're sitting obviously next to some call them the original NIL.
Yeah, I would put it that way, to be perfectly honest with you. Or persona non grata at the University of Miami, you know what I mean? There was a long time, and it's still, and I think that stench is still there at the University of Miami, that they think that Nevin is responsible for bringing down the program. Right. There was a lot of images and a lot of messaging that went out in the media that ultimately crucifying him. People are going to find out really what the situation was there eventually here, and that's why I'm basically here now. Is I was one of those guys. I was like, oh, that's it, finger point, that's it. That's the reason why we sucked. That's the reason, because he wanted to take guys out on a boat, and that's not the case, And unfortunately, people get painted in a certain light. Granted, he's not exactly innocent of everything. We're all guilty of something at some point in time. But yeah, I think that, he did a good job of having a great time with some players. There was a reciprocal relationship there. It happens everywhere else in the country, to be perfectly honest with you. His just so happened to come with an FBI case, to be perfectly honest with you. That was the downfall, and that was the reasoning.
Sure.
And they needed to go ahead and pin somebody up there. But I wouldn't go as far as to say is the reason why the University of Miami sucked for 15 years was because of Nevin Shapiro and him hanging out with some players. Right. No way in hell. Did the NCAA kind of cripple us by dragging us through the mud throughout? Yes, that happened. Like, there's no doubt. Yes, we could have gotten our penalty, but that's not Nevin's fault. That's the NCAA's fault. There's a lot of things that coincided with that era and the penalties and the coaching, the Al Golden years, the transfer over from Randy Shannon. Like, there's a lot of things that went on. That revolving door of muck went on for a while. So yeah,
definitely. And now we're in the world of what Nevin used to do is okay now.
Oh,
right?
It's like the guy that's been doing 20 years for selling marijuana. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to be kidding me.
And so what's your whole take on this NIL situation now?
Oh, God, I can't stand the NIL. I really can't.
I can't either.
It rubs me so wrong. Shout out to the University of Miami NIL department, but I guess that's just the era that we live in.
You're talking to them.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, between it started with Johnny Ruiz for a while, and it's just been removed. Like, you think the NFL is bad for losing the love of the game? Like, I guarantee you, poll right now in NFL locker room, and the 60 guys that are on that roster, 15 of them love the game. Still want to play the game, want to go to work every morning and play that game. You lose the love of the game the minute that you put something outside of your own intrinsic passionate value of why you want to get up and go do something every day. It doesn't need to be football. Be your job. It could be work. It could be anything. If you really have some kind of outside factor like money or the ability to get a car or to have a badass Instagram where you're posting up, where you're in front of a Rolls Royce, bro, that shit fades like the wind, man. It really does. It's the most limited motivator that I've ever come across in my life. It's a guy that buys the new boat. After a couple of years, wants to get a different boat. Tired of the boat. Women, another topic. Give me the hottest girl in the world. I'll show you a guy who's tired of banging her. It's the same thing. It's that
man.
You're constantly searching for something to create that value for what you want to do and grow up and be. And it ain't going to be a freaking paycheck for a few years, because between your family, your buddies, and you're going to blow through that money within a couple of years, to be honest with you. Like, and it's unfortunate that is the style of football and the life of football that we're in today. Is it's getting a couple $1 million up front so you can go ahead and be somewhere and play for some program that, at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember you. To be perfectly honest with you, nobody's going to remember who you. For the guys that are making a pit stop, for the Becks of the University of Miami that are coming into town for a few months, who just got cleared, by the way, to take a snap and throw a football. Like, are we going to talk about Carson Beck being like a Hall of Famer at the University of Miami one day? I hope not.
Yeah,
I freaking hope not. You know what I mean? The loyalty is.
I tried so hard, man. I really did. I tried. Like, I went at it with the president of the NCAA, man, and I told this guy, I said, man, look, this is coming, man. I didn't know it was going to be what it is. But I tried to give them the heads up, and they were like, "This is what you got."
No, I remember speaking to the old athletic director at Miami, and they were trying to result in paying the players what their scholarship was valued at. I think that was like the first stepping stone, because they realized that shit was about to go down.
Right.
And they were trying to go ahead and do that, but they couldn't do that because the University of Miami was X amount of money because of the private schools, and then you had the public school situation where it was a lot less valued. Yeah, and then they figured out real quick that this is going to go south, and then the NCAA was
all they had to do. The
null and
NCAA,
void.
all they really should have done, and I had recommended it. They should have tried to at least make an effort, like they wanted to, compensate the players for the change of the way the era is now.
Yeah,
it's not the game from 1990, 1980 going back. There's big media dollars now. The kids, the athletes, are the ones driving the car. That's it. It's never been about the X's and O's. It's always been about the Jimmys and Joes. And that's where the money comes. So, well, you got a scholarship, you're getting an education. Yeah, that's cool. And you guys are getting $1 billion, right? And that's why we're here today.
So do you believe that kids should be paid in college?
Yeah, I think they need to be compensated, but they
Okay.
need to be compensated to a degree. And what is that degree? It needs to be accompanied with a financial advisor, somebody that's going to help them out, understand, or even a trust. Like, if they want to get paid, then put it in a trust. It seems like a lot of other great football players made it through life without having $1 million put in a bank account in college. And they've done really good things, and they've grown up to become really good men and great products of their society. I don't think it's harmful for a kid to have 5 years of a trust waiting for them when they're done with their either NFL career or collegiate career. Just setting it up properly. And I know there's it's going to be difficult to navigate that in that water. But yeah, I think as long as there's a lot more structure involved with it. Like, do I think that isn't like Carson Beck supposed to get like $9.5 million this year that he's already inked?
You know,
Close to
there's
10.
rumors. Yeah, there's
And that's before he's even taken a snap, because we
Right.
all know what happened with Ward. Ward
Right.
got like about $1 million to come here, right?
Yeah.
Heisman candidate, unbelievable quarterback, which we should have done a little bit more with, but
No question.
you
We'll
know,
get
I think
we'll
we
get
missed the
into
boat on that. But the Carson Beck situation with the 9.5 and hasn't even pissed a drop at the U yet. Like that doesn't make sense.
Here's a question. So Art Kehoe was your position coach, right? So as a player, let's say you were playing in the NIL era. So let's say you're making $600,000 a year. You're getting you have a $600,000 bag NIL deal. How do you listen to your position coach who's making less money than you?
That's a great point, because it happens in the NFL. You know, a lot of the kids are more valuable, a lot of the young men are more valuable than the actual coaches are. But I'm thinking it's who you recruit, the players, the moral compass, the kids that you're bringing together and putting together and making them buy into that, you know, what quote unquote back in the day was called culture, which doesn't exist really anymore. You get good kids that understand that whether it's business or football, you're always going to sit there and listen to somebody who's been through the fire. It avoids you making the freaking mistakes, to be honest with you. And they say that about big brothers or about business owners is, I've done this before. Sit down, shut your goddamn mouth, be seen and not heard, and learn the trick of the trade. Learn your craft, understand your craft. And if you want, at the end of the day, you become that much better than me and you want to be the coach, you know what, you'll settle for the half of your paycheck that you got going on right now. I feel like, you know, you don't have the right, you didn't deserve it yet to go ahead and question what you got going on as a player, to be perfect, especially as an 18 to 21-year-old kid. You don't know whether to shit or wind your watch at that age, to be honest with you. You don't know any better.
Absolutely.
You really don't.
That's why I think a guy like Bill Belichick, who I'm not a fan of the Patriots whatsoever, and as neither am I a fan of Bill Belichick, the person. But as a coach, I think this guy's going to do I think he's going to do great.
I think he's going to do incredible.
I think he's going to do great because he's going to adapt that NFL model and get his guys. The same way he was able to get guys off the scrap heap in New England and make them for a common goal. And I see him doing the same thing for North Carolina. That's my opinion. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I just see this guy really figuring out that system.
And imagine you're dealing with a bunch of young men that are trying to get to where Bill was.
Right.
And doing it at that level. Bill Belichick, here's another story. I'll never forget this. I'm in Atlanta. We're running from one drill to the next, and we're doing inter-squad stuff against the Patriots. Because in the NFL, when you're doing the preseason stuff, you'll usually spend a week with the other program that you're about to go ahead and play against in that third game or second game or whatever it was. So the only time my wife ever came to practice was when Tom Brady was there. So, so she shows up and you know, we're going through our drills, and we just got done doing like an inside run drill, and I'm walking to the next, I think it was one-on-ones, O-line versus D-line. And then Bill walks by me and he's like, "Hey, Brett, how you doing?" And I was like, "Good, Coach, how you doing?" He's like, "Good." And then the offensive lineman that was standing next to me was like, "How the fuck Bill Belichick know who you are?" And I was like, "He knows who everybody is." That's Bill Belichick. Like, that is the OG of coaches, the most crafty, smartest, the scientist, the guy that knows everything about everything. And you want to go ahead and implement that at a collegiate level with an empty checkbook from Michael Jordan?
You're going to do work.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
I've been telling people.
oh, get ready.
I've been telling people,
Get ready, man.
I said, don't you keep sleeping on that.
I keep telling people about the North Carolina thing too. They're like, "Oh, they didn't get anybody this year." I was like, "It don't matter, bro.
Yeah.
He will take
He's getting
freaking
what he wants.
shit, and he'll make it into a beautiful
Put
sculpture."
Bill Belichick on our team last year with that squad, That's
Unbelievable.
cleanup duty.
Unbelievable.
Cleanup duty.
Game time adjustments, second to none, I think, this guy.
Unbelievable.
Second to none.
And we'll get into that. So I want to transition real quick into this. So let's get into this 2002 heartbreak.
Oh.
You know,
Jesus, Murphy, you want to talk about my parents? They died in a car crash, too. We can talk about that.
No.
Oh my.
No, I'm just kidding.
So you were the 2002 Remington Award winner.
Yeah.
That is for the best center in the country. You know, from your vantage point, obviously you saw the late flag and the whole game, right? Like, just can you walk us through like what you saw, like, and your emotions, and like what was that like for you?
Well, we played probably the shittiest game we've ever played, to be honest with you. Like for years, that was, like I said, correlated it to the Washington game. It was the worst performance that I think that we put on tape in a long time.
Why do you think that was?
We just weren't with it. We weren't prepared. I don't know if that's partially our fault, which obviously, yeah, as a former player, I'm gonna take that too. Or coaching wise, like, did we have the game time adjustments that we should have had? Because clearly Tressel did and his staff did. They had a game plan. They were very prepared for the University of Miami. And then when they got stopped doing something, they had something else for us. So I thought we got out-coached that game, to be honest with you. Outplayed, outcoached, and it was a recipe for disaster. And when Willis lost his knee there, and it didn't take much after that, we had guys kind of like folding, to be honest with you, not talking on the sideline anymore, guys going into a shell. It was
Fans going into a shell. Me. Ugh.
And you could see my face. There's a image of me, that the disgusted look that I had on my face, having to go back out and play another round of OT, like, you know, holding onto the football. I wasn't even able to hold the ball because my hands were cramping up so bad, dehydrated, physically just tired and done. You know, 74 overtimes. We were just done. We were gassed. And deflating, aside from Willis's knee, is like, you know, winning a national championship and saying no after. And I found out that Porter lived he lived near campus. He's like a mile and a half off of campus.
He's an Ohio State alumni.
Yeah. He's very, you know, entrenched in that program.
I wish I would have seen the end.
Oh, you didn't see the end of that game?
No, I threw the bottle at the guy at Porter's head, and then they took me out of the game.
Are you serious?
I missed the whole overtime.
That's probably really bad. Yeah. I got some bad stuff for you.
All right.
One of the last ones out of the locker room, getting IVs and stuff, taking the team bus back, and there was only maybe 4 or 5 of us that took the team bus back. Everybody vacated the premises after. I had to hop over Willis. Me and my wife now, Emily, girlfriend at the time in college, hopped over Willis's knee. That was like, his leg was streamed across onto the other seat of a bus. Towel over his head, crying. His girl was rubbing his back at that time. Just morbid. And then getting to the hotel room, sitting in my hotel bed up against the wall, and then having like family and friends come in. And I don't remember a lot of this stuff, but this is what everybody was telling me, just coming in and, like, you know, trying to console me. And I was like, no, don't even bother. Don't even bother. Never saw the game. Never watched the game. Never saw Willis's knee, even though it was like every highlight ESPN showing for like a month and a half. Never watched it. Never cared to watch it. Never saw it. Even my teammate in Atlanta, Jenkins, I didn't realize he was the one that had the flag called on him, the wide receiver from Ohio State.
Yeah.
And him and I were co-hosting an event at Capitol Grill, and we were waiting tables, and it was an Ohio State kind of sponsored table. And they were like, "Oh, Romberg, what's it like, you know, hanging out with your teammate and, you know, Jenkins?" And I was like, "I don't know, he's a cool dude. He's all right." And they're like, "Oh, Ohio State." And I'm just like, why the hell do they keep talking about Ohio State? So I go up to Jenk and I was like, "Why do they keep talking about Ohio State?" And he goes, "Oh, I was the Romberg, you didn't know I was the wide receiver? I was the guy that got the flag." And I was just like, "That's it, done." Like, never spoke to the dude ever again. Like, dude, I take things. I think I'm bad when it comes to like grudges. I take things very, very personal, very bad. Immediately, I went and just sat at the bar and met Cecil Fielder that night. You know, my idol growing up as a kid. But
I'm no longer serving. I'm now
I'm done.
drinking.
I'm done. I told Arthur Blank I'm going to serenade you later on. I was singing like Bon Jovi. You know, it became a puddle of a night that night. But I was that. Seeing Willis, seeing that, like seeing just the faces, the grim faces on us, that at that moment in time we knew that was it. Like. And then having Sean Taylor and Antrell Roll coming up to me saying we wanted to win, and Kellen Winslow saying we wanted to win this for you. You know, this was so important to us because we wanted you guys to go out as like with a legacy and all this other shit. And then like you realize at that point in time that like they say you're only as good as your last game. And that's the way we left the University of Miami. We left the University of Miami with a loss in a national championship. It was like, it's one of the hardest pills to swallow. It really was.
Yeah. What is your overall take? You know, you got recruited by Butch, but what was your feelings of Larry Coker and his coaching?
Larry, his coaching or Larry? I love
the same thing.
I love Coker.
Coaching.
Yeah, I love Coker, and that that's the reason why me, Ed, Brian McKinney, and Joaquin sat in the O-line room and had Paul D come in there, and we told Paul D, and Barry Alvarez shows up, we're out. We're all leaving. We're all taking off. And that's who. And Dorsey was there too, I believe. But yeah, it was like us 4 or 5. It was the team captains, and that was it. We knew what to do. We knew how to do it. We didn't want nobody else infiltrating what was going on. I know Donna wanted to bring in Barry so bad, like really, really bad. And we were like, nope, absolutely not. We're not having that shit. We don't want that. We're good to go. Coker loved the fact that we stood on the table for him. Let Chud, I think Randy was still there at that time. Shannon was there.
Randy was the DC.
He was our DC, yeah.
So Stoops was the DB coach.
Yeah. Stoopies was still there. Mm-hmm. So we had, like, you want to talk about a great level of assistant coaches, too. You know what I mean? Like, the players get a lot of credit, but.
And that's another thing with that LSU team. That Miami coaching staff, you can't even compare that LSU coaching staff.
Curtis Johnson.
Oh, listen. It's
NFL coaches.
Yeah.
Stoops, head coach in collegiate football. Randy Shannon, head coach in collegiate athletics. Who else? Rod Chudzinski, head coach in the NFL. Like, our coaching staff was just as decorated as our players were, to be honest with you. So, and what a level of respect, mutual respect we had for each other. They hung out. They loved every minute with us. They would open their coach's locker room and see us beating the shit out of each other in the middle, and they'd hurry up and shut the door because they didn't want any liability. It was like, it was a giant brotherhood. Like, it really was. Really was.
So we're going to segue after this topic into the current program, but the fans love to hear a Sean Taylor story. They always like to hear from him, his Sean Taylor. You have a Sean Taylor story you could share?
In the NFL, I do, yeah.
Okay, whatever one you want.
Yeah, we were playing against the Redskins in St. Louis, and I kept going out and cutting London Fletcher, like trying to blow up London Fletcher, middle linebacker. And I think Sean got tired of it. And after the whistle, I got blasted, like fucking ears ringing, seeing stars coming up from the pile. And I was like, ooh, like, and I was always, when I was a player, I was nasty, but I was funny nasty. Like, I'd blow kisses, I'd squeeze asses, I'd get guys giggling to try to get them mentally out of their game or trying to do something funky. Like even James Harrison, I was trying to mess with James Harrison, the dude you don't mess with. I found out quick you don't really want to mess with them, but yeah, I was even trying to do stuff with like OG legends in the NFL game. So, I'm sitting there, I just got zinged, ears ringing, not knowing really where I'm at, what's going on, and I look and I see it was Sean, and I was like, was it you? Was that you? And then he just immediately was like, "Fuck you, Romberg," because he was like trying to protect his teammate.
Yeah.
And I never realized Sean was a baby when I was at the U, right? I never realized how demonic he was on a football field. Because again, defensive side of the football field, I'm an older guy. I never really knew much or saw much of Sean Taylor. Like Shock would tell me all the time, because Shock being a tight end, catching a football, feeling Sean Taylor. You know what I mean? I would never really feel Sean Taylor. I'd have my Vilma, my middle linebackers, my D linemen. That was my comfort zone. Very rarely you'd catch me on the outside, maybe on a screen with Phil Buchanan or something like that, but it was never really a safety situation.
Right.
And I got zinged. I looked at Sean, and Sean was going nuts. Like I saw, the sweetheart. I was off the field. I saw the demonic guy that everybody talked about on the field, the Brian Dawkins kind of scenario. And I started giggling, and then he hit me with the N-word, and he hit me with a couple other choice words, and I said, "Oh, it's fucking on now. Like it's Donkey Kong. Like I'm aborting every single assignment. I got the next play." In overtime, mind you now. So I got my 235-pound running back, Steven Jackson, behind me. He was just the same size as I was. And aborted my mission, go right up, rip apart Sean. And, Steven Jack is like running right over top of us, winning touchdown for the overtime win, and I started going ballistic on Sean. I was like, giving him my business after that. I left the N-word out of it, though. I was cordial about it. And I was giving him all kinds of verbal business, little physical business. We started fighting, to be perfectly honest with you, in the middle of the field. And then even the announcers were talking about, oh, these guys are college teammates. This is how intense the rivalries are at the University of Miami. So, yeah, that was like my Sean Taylor story. And then obviously, getting that nightmare call about what happened to him at his house, and then Shockey barking at me about not going to the goddamn funeral, and just all kinds of shit. It was a tailspin. But I learned a lot more about Sean post Sean, to be honest with you, and just how revered and respected he was, and how different he was becoming. I think that was the more thing that I was intrigued to learn about Sean was how better of a human being he was trying to become, obviously with the birth of his daughter Jackie. So yeah, that was the thing that put a smile on my face more about Sean than anything else. But I still love the fact that we got into it, though.
Yeah, no, that's a good story. That's a really good one.
I told you when you had asked me about him, I said, man, the sweetest kid in the world or the devil on the other end.
Totally. Jekyll and Hyde, that kid.
Right, man. Like Jekyll I'm telling you, that's how quick that switch was.
Yeah.
And, like the memories, and I told you before, I just remember Sean playing Miss Pac-Man in my house with my little nephew. 3 hours. I couldn't get the guy away.
And he looks sweet. Like, that's the sad part about it. Like, I think back now, and I could picture his face. Like, he looked like a sweet dude, like a nice kid. Always had, like, 4 or 5. He reminded me a little bit about Blades, kind of a little bit Al Blades-ish, without the lunatic vocal expressions, because Sean was so goddamn quiet.
Yeah, man.
Sean would always have 4 or 5 braids done, and then the other ones would already be pulled out, cornrows, and like that's just the image I would always have about Sean Taylor. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, super unfortunate.
Gone obviously way too soon, but from the stories that I've heard from guys that he played with in the NFL too, like just epic. Like Portis would tell me a lot of stories about him. Obviously Santana and them guys sharing time in Washington together. Yeah, just crazy stuff. It's cool. It's cool to hear the stories. It really is.
Yeah. Let's move on to our final segment here, so we could wrap this up. We're going to go into the present state of the program now. We'll back it up for last year, though, because I want your commentary. Did you feel that Miami blew a golden opportunity last year with what we had?
I could rewind even further, and going into that season, learning about what we had at quarterback. Obviously, nobody anticipated what happened at quarterback, but learning about how good of a person that dude was, and how he valued the players that he played with in the locker room, how he gathered guys old school style, like Saturdays, telling guys, oh, you're going to go up there and train with that guy. Oh, okay, because that guy's going to be throwing to you on Saturday. Oh, okay, so if you really want to play and you want to ball out and you want to come down here and learn how to play football with your team, creating that team atmosphere, then like that's the stuff that I was hearing as a former player around the locker room. So I already knew that we had something different going on at that quarterback position. Obviously not to the level that we had it at. Guys cared. Guys cared about the program. There was more buzz in the locker room about after hours activities, not necessarily going to the club, more along the lines of doing shit that they were not asked to do, but wanting to do it voluntarily and doing it as a unit. Guys really cared about the program, it seemed to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm not going to be shocked, and especially once the schedule came out. I was, pounding the pavement, telling everybody that I talked to, I'm not going to be shocked if we go undefeated. I really wouldn't. Wouldn't be shocked if we go undefeated. Then we were starting to see some of the stuff that was going on during the games, and we were kind of squeaking by. Those are always nervous for me, just much like I'm sure it is to every Hurricane fan out there. But it kept repeating, and it was happening more and more often where they didn't get their shit together until like the very end, and they had to pull something out of their ass to make it happen.
It's a pattern.
Yeah, there was clearly a pattern. I was like, okay, it's only going to be a matter of time now that they're going to get bit. You want to tempt the devil, the devil's going to show up. He's going to show up hard. And I always knew about the Georgia Tech physicality. I knew that was going to be a possible problem. And then the Thanksgiving time, the Thanksgiving game of going up into New York, that could have been a trap too, So I was like, is it going to be serious? Like, there's no goddamn way. No way. And I was like, okay, so my temperature changed from undefeated to 2 games to watch out for, Syracuse, Georgia Tech. Like, those are my 2, And then obviously watching a couple of those debacles and then watching us fade away and just kind of, do the same old thing.
November debacle.
Yeah, I thought we were better than that. I thought we'd gotten to the point where You know, Mario's been striving over the first few years of creating a whole new foundation, a whole new philosophy over there, putting the pieces together, trying to make that happen. But I felt like it faded. And the player that we had looking back, and a lot of people forget about highlights. And I don't know if anybody's seen, you know, obviously they're going to play a lot of them today, being the draft, or tomorrow, whenever we air this podcast. It might be post the NFL draft. But go back and take a look at some of the amazing stuff that Ward did for our program this year. It's electrifying. It's shit that we haven't seen at the university in a very long time. That kid was polarizing. He was special. I don't know if we're ever going to get anything like that ever again for a long time, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah. Especially nowadays. You can't pay $980,000 to a kid to come in here and have that kind of performance on the football field. That kind of leadership, that kind of teammate, that kind of care, that kind of want. That guy's always going to go in my head as one of the greatest Miami quarterbacks to ever come here, regardless if he was only here for a year. Like, I think that he was a polarizing, incredible leader for this program, and we did miss an opportunity. We missed an opportunity for that guy.
Brett, I couldn't agree with you any more than what you just said. And to go back to all of our discussions, this guy's a hater, he's a hater, no, I'm not. That's how I feel. That was an unbelievable opportunity right there to capitalize on a generational kid. That kid was electric, man. That kid was electric. There's no way we should have let that season go away without, for sure, being in the playoffs. They were a semifinal team. We definitely get a game in the Orange Bowl and we win. There's no reason why Miami wasn't in the national title game. We have, one game situation, anything can happen. Look what happened to us in the 2002 team. Yeah. We lost to Ohio State. We were an 11.5-point favorite, right? So anything can happen. Anything comes down to one game, you never know. That's just how it is. We blew a great chance. Yeah. Great chance. And anyone that doesn't think that we underachieved last year, you're just lying. You're just lying to yourself. And I think Brett just broke it down to the T. Everything that I've been saying. So does that make it more beneficial that a former player and a guy who has been there says it? That's exactly what it was.
And the one thing that I saw, too, this year that was a little bit different than in the previous years was the heart that the kids displayed. Like, another guy that might not go as high in the draft this year that I think should go as high, because, again, I'm not a guy that likes paper champs. Granted, I was never one of them. Maybe I have a little bit of a bias. Short arms, shorter, smaller, not being able to play in the NFL, but still lasting 9 years in the league, like shit like that. Like, I have a chip on my shoulder about that. So a guy like Restrepo, if you're in a goddamn dogfight at the end of a football game, I don't know who else you want on your sideline, in your huddle, going to war, playing against I'll put him against anybody. I don't give a shit how great the safety or DB is. I don't care if he's 6'3", got long arms, long legs, is going to jump through the ceiling. Restrepo is the type of player that will find a way to win.
He'll make a play.
He's the one guy that I would frickin' hang my hat. That's the guy that I would put on my 2001 team. There's only so many guys that I've seen in the last 20, 25 years to play at the University of Miami that you would want to accompany you in your huddle and play for that team. Ward being one of them, Restrepo's another one. There's only a select few, to be honest with you. If you look at it as a former player, I would go to war with that kid any day of the week. And you want to talk about respectful? I saw him for the first time in the equipment room at the University of Miami, and he was nervous. I could see that he was nervous to say something to me. And again, I'm 20 freaking years plus removed from the University of Miami, not even a factor. And walked up to me, like I could see him like plotting in his brain what he was going to say to me. He was there like signing autographs for kids and signing balls for the equipment guys to try to go ahead and do something. And he goes, legend, legend. Like, and I looked at him, I'm just like the respect, the character, obviously his family, like they're at every single practice, every single game. Like that is what embodies what you want as a football player, a teammate, a friend at the University of Miami. They're not a dime a dozen anymore, and especially nowadays in collegiate athletics. I think that kid is a phenomenal player. Glad to see that he got recognized All-American, right? He got All-American with Ward, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
So kudos. I'm glad to see him in the rafters.
I'm in agreement with you on that one also. Obviously, you have a personal relationship with Xavier Restrepo. But man, I'm a fan of his, and I know he's going to make it.
Yep.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, I know he's going
he cares because I think there's a humongous that kid freaking cares.
Yeah.
He loves playing. Oh my God, loves it.
He loves it, man.
Respectful, great human being, great pillar for the University of Miami.
That kid was always there.
He's very Braxton Berrios-ish,
right,
if you want to hit it with that. But you know, part of the Latin community. Like. Got that Latin gene, bro. It's like the Jewish gene, you know. You kind of, you don't get.
You know what we do.
But yeah, man, like Braxton. Braxton's a great dude too. But Xavier and Ward, you know, awesome. Yeah, amazing combination.
One point I want to make on the Cam Ward thing, you know, and I'm not bashing Carson Beck, but like everything Brett just said about Cam Ward, he was all about the game and ball. You didn't hear a lot of off noise garbage, and you're getting all this stuff with this kid Beck, and that's what I don't dig. Maybe Beck is really great this year, but everything is about not football with him right now, and that's what bothers me. You didn't hear any noise with Cam Ward. He was just all about balling, and that's why he's going to be in a few hours a multimillionaire.
Yeah, that's the thing I love about seeing with Ward is he's not only done it at the University of Miami, but he's doing it post-collegiate career. He's always very, very highly regarded when it comes to his workouts, his work ethic. You could see he almost embarrasses Shedeur Sanders, to be honest. And I'm not doing this because of, you know, hometown Miami guy. He just looks professional about everything that he does. The shit talking, the bullshit, the glam and the glitz and all the other stuff. He ain't about that. He ain't about it.
You know, we were in San Antonio a few weeks ago for the Final Four. And when we were driving to the stadium, I said, man, that's Incarnate Word? I'm like, I didn't even know where that place was. So that's where he started, at Incarnate Word, Cam Ward.
Oh, wow.
So I said, yeah, we got to go, and let's just go shoot a clip. So I did. Man, if you saw where this kid played, where he started, 0 stars. And there's nicer fields around your house.
Yeah. I bet.
That aren't even the high where this kid played college football. Now he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft.
I love
so
that.
for anybody who thinks like, they don't know what you have inside. This kid came from nowhere.
Right.
Are you going to have an I told you so moment when he goes first pick or what?
Oh, you got that right. Oh, yeah.
You're not bitter. You're not bitter.
Yeah.
You're not bitter.
I don't stunt.
So let's wrap up with two final questions we're going to wrap the show up with. I want to know your take on this year with Carson Beck and your prediction on what we're going to look like this year.
Okay. Granted, the fact that he just got the clearance, right? To go ahead and like take a few
we
snaps
talk about timing a lot on our show, and
he got rid of the girlfriend, or the girlfriend got rid of him. However you want to look at it, I don't know.
Sure. Probably the better
maybe
thing.
the ticky-tacky stuff might be over with. I'm not a social media guy. I used to be. The only thing I use social media for now is, you know, saying good things about my kids and you know, maybe checking out the odd Instagram model or two once in a while, or sending dirty stuff to my buddies. I always like doing that too. But yeah, man, once you remove yourself from that realm of social media in terms of living your life and boasting and trying to show off, you know what I mean? I think that's going to remove a lot of distraction from the program on the big scale of things and personally for him, to be honest with you. I got a pretty decent relationship with a bunch of guys over there. They said he's super intelligent, sees field very, very well. Is he the greatest teammate right now, or is he hanging out with all the boys? No. But good news is it's still early. We still got a whole summer ahead of us. And hopefully now, instead of spending time making TikTok videos and hanging out with the Caverner girls, hopefully he's hanging out with his buddies, his teammates, creating memories, creating relationships, letting them know that he's there for them. And vice versa. I think that's going to be imperative in growing this summer together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not as high as I was on him as Cam Ward was. But you know, the University of Miami had to make a big splash.
A Brett Romberg record prediction.
Oh, record prediction this year. We still got a pretty easy schedule, right? From looking at it. Well, you got Notre Dame. How good is Notre Dame going to be on the 31st?
Yeah, it's still no, you know. Coaching, I think it's a coaching aspect.
SMU is going to be nice. Going out to SMU, going to visit Rip
Gators
Ashley.
at home.
Yep.
Gators at home. I don't think the Gators are going to piss a drop, to be honest with you.
Really?
But I'm going to be there. I'm going to like it. I'm going to absolutely like it. Yeah, I don't have really any rivalry.
Virginia Tech November debacle
gobble,
on
gobble,
the road.
gobble, Blacksburg. That's going to be a toughie. That's going to be a toughie.
And a Pittsburgh to wrap the season up in the cold. I don't like that either. Look at our 2017 season. We blow out Notre Dame, go to Pittsburgh,
Shit
and
the
we
bed.
lose
Yeah,
because it's the
we shit the
weather.
bed.
We're terrible in the weather. Years November debacle weather game on the road for Miami has been just the last 20 years. It's been what it's been.
Okay, well then you know what? I'll give you that. I'll give you that similar record. I'll give you a similar record that we had this year. I don't think we're going to trip up.
Okay.
The way that we tripped
10-2.
Yeah, I'm going to go 10-2
Okay.
again. I'm going to go 10-2 again. Status quo. A little repeat offender this year, but I would love.
Yeah.
I would love for the Pittsburgh physicality in the cold.
Yep.
To be like actually on our side this time. Like instead of like us getting the shit kicked out of us, I would rather us like do the punishing. To be honest with you.
Yep.
I really would.
And he's got. Listen, man. One thing Mario's done, he's definitely built that trench, man. He's built that offensive line. Like
Mirabal, Alex, like Mighty Mouse. You know, you want to put him in your pocket and walk around with him. Like there's not a guy I think better out there that understands players, that has a great relationship with players. It's a total different dynamic over there than what it used to be.
Yeah, the trenches are insane.
Way different dynamic.
Much
over
better.
There.
Yeah, you can see it.
And I'm pretty happy with the current center that they got going on. Is he as good as Matt Lee? Probably not.
Yeah.
But he's really good, and he's a really good teammate. And I think when you got big monsters, like they got like 4 or 5 Bryant McKinneys over there. Like you know what I mean? Like it's hard to jack up and mess up if you're a center when you got those monsters playing with you. So I think the intellectual thing that both Carson has and the current center right now that's at the University of Miami and the offensive coordinator sitting down and understanding the reason why they're doing certain things, that's going to be next level. And I think that might be one of the advantages nowadays in collegiate athletics is understanding different programs and seeing different things is what we obviously didn't have. But once you are to the level of your game that you're able to go ahead and anticipate, and the reason why you want to anticipate is because you want to understand what the guy's doing across from you and why they're doing it. And I think these guys are at that level. Half of them are 34 years old, for Christ's sakes, still in their 18th year of college football, which doesn't make sense to me. But
Cam McCormick, if he came back this year, the dude's getting a pension. I was pulling for the
Social
10th
Security.
Year. I was pulling for the 10th year. I'm like, man, he'll be the first college player ever to get a pension.
yeah. I think this game is going to be the game nowadays. I think it's a little bit more intellectual. It's not as brute as it was back in the day.
Offensively, they're going to be great. I mean, they should be.
Yeah.
They should be great.
Yeah.
How's that defense? And that's it. I don't see. Where's the question?
That's my thing, man. That's my thing.
That's
I know
it.
we brought back D-Lou. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, that was a good
Damian
move.
Lewis running the
Yeah,
defensive
yeah, that
tackle.
was a good move.
I know that they were over there at Colorado last year. Him and Sapp sitting down looking at our defensive line and saying, "What the is going on up there?" So now they're getting a little bit more finicky about what they're doing, why they're doing it. Obviously,
Just
you
not
might have a
high on
healthier.
this DC, man. He's not enough experience. You look at Ohio State. We talk about this a lot. Matt Patricia is the DC now for the Ohio State Buckeyes. That's a DC hire.
Yeah. Well,
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not high on him.
I get it, but you're also going to be dealing with. He's not going to have to be a micromanager. And that's what I love about it. You got guys getting handled by defensive tackles that have been in the league that are awesome first-round draft picks. You got Jason Taylor ripping apart defensive ends on the outside. You got a defensive coordinator that all he needs to focus on is, they're doing this. This is what we got to do. You spend time in your office. I'll never forget coming home after going to Flanagan's on Thursday nights with all the offensive line and seeing Rob Chudzinski's little nightlight on at his desk at like 10 o'clock at night on Thursday nights at the University of Miami in the Heck Center. Well, Joaquin's running to go ahead and take a dump in the tennis courts. Like stuff like that. Like in the bathrooms. Not on the actual court. Not on the actual court. But yeah, you would see Rob's light up in the window. And Chud's over there, even on a Thursday night. Our game, obviously, Saturday. On a Thursday night, that dude's in there polishing. And that's where Ken Dorsey gets it from, too. It's different. It's different. And as long as that DC understands, he's got guys that can handle the position, that can handle themselves. It's his job just on game day to make sure that shit's uptight.
I have one last question from my end.
Okay.
So he brings me a lot of the information from, I don't watch all the sites and all this and that. Let's say Miami's not as successful as we hope they are. What does there reach a point for you as a fan? How long do you stay with Mario Cristobal? And I'm only asking that not from my end. I'm asking that because I know we have so many discussions with people that call us and interact with us, and it's a hot topic.
That was going to be my last question is about Mario.
Yeah, it's a hot button topic. So I'm just curious from your vantage point, what's successful in your eyes?
constantly getting better every single thing you do every day. It might not be in the win column, but eventually it will be in the win column. I promise you, it will be in the win column. Just getting guys to be accountable, I think, is half the battle over there. It's, God damn it, they're getting fed fruit and timeouts. You know what I mean? Like, this is the landscape of college athletics nowadays. They have chefs and cooks and dietitians and like 3 jobs for every single position now on the football field. Guys monitoring social media. Like, it's a different landscape. It's a lot of money. It's big money. I think the fact that there will not be another football coach for the University of Miami that wants Miami to be more successful. So I'm saying this as a former player, as a fan, as someone who loves this goddamn institution that sometimes is not so nice to us as former players, and we'll continue to love the goddamn thing, even though coaches are renting chairs over there, and it's a carousel. There's not going to be a coach that wants it more, that wants the University of Miami to be more successful than Mario Cristobal. There's not going to be a guy that's not going to sleep, work his ass off, and find ways to create that success. If it's not with him, he'll hire somebody that is going to help him out to get it right. And I believe it. And if a fan out there, if somebody out there knows of somebody else that the University of Miami should hire as a head coach that is willing to do it, that is willing to put in the time and grind, I'm open. I'm open to suggestions, and everybody else is too.
Yeah, listen,
I don't think there is.
I absolutely agree with you on those points, even though I haven't been the biggest fan of some of his moves. But I agree with you. Like, there's nobody who could want it more than that guy from where he's come from, where he's played, where he's been, where his heart is, his heritage, the whole thing. I mean, you're right. Yeah, so that makes
I get it. You want to bring in like a monster like a Bill Belichick, I get it. But, you know, Bill's going to do something at the University of North Carolina that's going to probably create something epic, but it's going to fade. It's going to be done. Like, Mario's trying to build something here that is going to last.
Yeah, foundation.
And it's tough. Like, a lot of people, and again, a lot of fans out there don't realize a lot of the shit that he ran into when he got here.
Yeah.
A lot of bad things was left at the University of Miami that he had to pick up the pieces for that people don't get, that they don't understand.
Yeah,
so,
he had to gut out some shit.
Yeah, it was a full-fledged torch job.
Yeah.
It really was.
And some people, you know, what we hear, and this was my final question, which was in part of this, we hear a lot, like I was at the spring game, hear a lot of 50-50 on Mario from his coaching, not from him as a person or whatever, just his coaching, the debacles of not taking a knee and this type of stuff. From a pure coaching aspect, you know, do you feel he's the guy? Like, how do you feel about him?
I do.
So you
I
feel
really
he's
do.
the guy? Okay.
Yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid.
Okay.
Not obviously when they brought him back, and I was a big proponent for him coming back, and you know, I was at that press conference, and I got a great relationship over there with everybody. I really do. I'm a firm believer that he if he's not the guy right now, he will be the guy. Like, if you look at Bill Belichick in his early coaching career, he wasn't awesome either. You know, I think a lot of us, trial by fire, you got to get burnt once in a while. You got to learn from your mistakes. There's going to be learning curves. And again, you're dealing with 100 kids. It's tough to make sure that
changing landscape.
Yeah. It's tough to make sure that
I need $1 million. What?
Yeah.
It's insane.
I'll let you guys rest easy with the fact that Mario is not influenced by NIL deals, by players asking for more money, snotty, bratty kids. That's not his mantra. Mario would make those kids go elsewhere to be perfect, and it might be detrimental to a fault. Some kid that might be amazingly talented, that might be awesome. He ain't selling his soul to the devil to get this kid over here, to be honest with you. He's trying to do things the right way, and that's the only way he really knows how to do them, to be honest with you. So I'm positive on the University of Miami, Mario, the outlook, the future of the program. He's here for the long haul, I believe, especially with his relationships with Rudy and Joe over there, the guys that run the school. So get used to him. He's going to be here for a while, is my guess. You know,
I said the same thing.
Either get on or get off. You know what I mean? Definitely. It is what it is. So, and if anything that we could do to make things better over there, to talk more positively, to increase the love of the University of Miami, and shit. Trust me, as former players, it happens to us all the time. We get screwed over by the U. We don't get anything we ask for. We want a little bit of help doing something. We want help promoting our businesses or whatever it might be, and we don't always get it. We'll get the courtesy thumbs up, but we don't get the love that we feel like we should be getting for the University of Miami. But we still love the goddamn place. It's like, fans getting kicked in the junk for the last 20 years. Still love the goddamn place. It is what it is, man. It's part of your family. strap on. It's going to be a long ride. It's going to be rough. It's going to be bumpy, but love the goddamn place, man. It's part of our soul. It's part of our blood. We bleed this place, and our kids bleed it, and our generations bleed it. So jump the goddamn thing on, get on the train, man, ride it with us, ups and downs. It is what it is.
Absolutely. Man, Brett, can't thank you enough for coming on, man. This was awesome.
My pleasure.
This was
My
great.
pleasure. Thanks
it's
for
always
having me.
about the you, will always be about the you. So before you guys leave, please click that subscribe button. What an episode we just gave you guys. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one.